Canada is just about to make the biggest mistake it's ever made in its history, and we're calling it a budget in 2025. Mark Carney's plans sound very ambitious, but they're just filled with buzzwords and glossy promises. He's looking to hand our country over to huge foreign corporations and going into mega debt, mega generational debt. Those are his own words. And at the meantime, he's selling Canada far short, leaving out the small business people who are the heartbeat of Canada and job growth. Everybody knows that. This isn't nation building, this is nation selling. If Canadians don't pay attention now, they'll be paying for this for decades to come. This is the great Canadian sellout. Mark Carney, since he came to office, has famously been saying Canada is not for sale. And so far, the opposite of everything he has said is what's come true. So has Canada already been sold? Is that what Carney's got a deal on? Hi, my name is Ross McLean. I'm a former law enforcement officer. I used to do close protection for billionaires, and I've worked for global Fortune 50 companies. I want to play for you now an interview that I did with Mark Patrone on his radio show in the Greater Toronto area. Mark's got a great radio show, uncensored, unedited. You can say what you want on there, and it's hardball. I'm going to break down for you, and I'm going to give you the receipts of all the major problems with Carney's idea of building the country. I believe he's selling the country out, and the receipts are going to be on the video. You watch it, and you tell me at the end if you think he's selling Canada out or he's building it.
The PM gives Canadians a State of the Union style speech. Get ready for sacrifices, says Prime Minister Carney. Maybe some tough times ahead, but don't worry because Canada is going to double exports to countries not named the United States of America over the next 10 years. That's the Prime Minister's plan. Let's hear a little bit about what he had to say.
I will always be straight about the challenges that we face and the choices that we must make. And to be clear, we won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices, and it will take some time.
What kind of sacrifices are we talking about here exactly? The speech yesterday and what we can expect as a result of what Carney had to say in the budget coming up on November 4th. Ross, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be with you, Mark. But I have to tell you, it's something else, the eulogy that was delivered over Canada's future by the funeral director, Mark Carney, in his dark suit and his somber tones. I mean, this guy, I think, is nothing but major league trouble for Canada, and I can tell you why.
Why?
Well, let's look at some of the things he's talking about. He's talking about these huge projects that we're going to make big bets on, right? It has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. You can find professors who wrote on this. You can find PhDs who wrote on this. You can find books on this. Huge government projects always cost hundreds of times what you predict they're going to cost. They take hundreds of times longer to complete them than you want to complete them, and they never deliver what they're going to deliver. That's almost in 99% of the cases. Think of the Eglinton Crosstown and how that's going, and that's not even as huge a thing as Carney wants to talk about. So all of this talk of doing huge projects with generational spending is absolutely against what economists and anybody who studies capitalism will tell you. We've got the issue right now, Mark, where the economies are changing so fast. It's being called sort of the bubble economy going forward. You kind of have to go from bubble to bubble to bubble as things move, right? And if you're building something like he wants to talk like he's going to do the equivalent of build a railroad across Canada or something like that, well, by the time you've got that done, you've already lost out 1,000 times in the other opportunities. Same as their investment in electric batteries. Oh, what a great idea. Then the whole market falls out from underneath it. So this premise of doing giant super projects, which, by the way, enriches him and his buddies, and it guarantees that Canadians, generational Canadians, are going to pay for these projects that are going to not come in on time, not come in on budget, and not deliver. And you can confidently say that because that's what happens with every super large government project, no matter which government puts it out. So right there, he's telling a pack of lies. Yeah. And just one other big thing.
Oh, sure, of course.
He goes on about decarbonizing. You have to decarbonize. He wants to decarbonize the oil in Alberta. You know who sells the most oil in the world? It's Saudi Arabia. They sell about a quarter $2 trillion of oil a year. You know how much of it is decarbonized, Mark?
Zero?
None. Not a drop. Not a drop. So he's just making this up in his head so he can take money for his projects and his friends. And I think it's going to be the death of the Canadian economy if he gets this budget through. I think they're going to have a no confidence here. Someone needs to cross the floor. Someone needs to step up from the NDP, who are losing all their union jobs. All the jobs going are the NDP union jobs.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be problems coming, Mark. That's my take on it.
Yeah. And if the NDP is losing union members, what motivation do they have to support the budget and to vote in favor of it? I mean, they got to stand up for their members if they want to recoup some of those lost seats. They're down to 7. To me, I don't think they have much to lose forcing an election. Yeah, they're broke, but they'll be broke anyway, in 3 years from now, I think. And so they have nothing to lose voting against the budget, in my view. And you know what I didn't hear yesterday? I didn't hear Mark Carney double or backpedal on this stupid green agenda that Canada has been on for a decade. The fact that we have to view this one fantastic resource of ours that could solve our economic problems, that could solve our fiscal problems, that we have to view that as if it's a shameful thing that's destroying the planet. Now, I realize that there are other reasons why they're doing it. They think they can profit by destroying our resource sector. But that's what I wanted to hear from Mark Carney. I wanted him to stand up and say, look, we've been on this trajectory for years now of keeping as much of our resources in the ground. We're still selling to the Americans, but it's a fraction of what we could be selling to the world. And so we need to capitalize on that if we're going to fix our, the hole that we've dug for ourselves over the course of a decade. And I didn't hear any of that. I mean, to your point, we're still decarbonizing. We're still, pushing this green crap. I mean, and we're still screwing ourselves over. So the idea that we're going to sell another $300 billion worth of Canadian goods to the rest of the world, to countries not named the United States of America, all well and good. What are we going to sell them? The rest of the world wants our energy. That's what we've got to sell. Are we going to sell that? Well, no, because I didn't hear that yesterday. Did you?
No, and let's look at the macro on that. I mean, Canada apparently just voted for a UN global tax to go on the shipping industry the other day. And that means everything that we are going to ship to another country that goes on a ship is going to be more expensive and less competitive. Way to go, Mark. Self-goal, self-owned on that one. And let's look at the European Union, Mark. There isn't a more protectionist place on earth than the European Union. They fight like crazy to make sure nobody gets in there except their people, and they profit on their place. They're not sitting there going, I wonder if we can take all of our money and spend it over on something that comes from Canada rather than spend it on our own countries, which are suffering over here. They don't do that. In China's in a mess of a problem right now. And one of the problems they had, Mark, they have a mass of electric cars that they've got no buyers for. They're sitting in fields and they're rotting. They're building them, and they've got no buyers for them. That's a China economic problem for China. And what does Mark want to do? No, he wants to allow them to sell the cars over here and help them out with their excess. In fact, last night I was looking at the government grants that they give on EV vehicles. They still have the webpage up there. I'll put it on my X post later. I'll get it and I'll put it up there. You know that Ingersoll EV that went down? They just went down the other day. They lost the 1,500 GM jobs. They sell those for like $67,000 list, and the government gives a $40,000 incentive to get it. $40,000. They're almost trying to give those things away, and they can't give them away. But on there, I saw page after page after page of incentives for Chinese electric vehicles, Chinese electric buses, Chinese electric big trucks, like the ones that Quebec they just lost 300 jobs over. Yeah. Like for some reason, and I see on my feed that Anand there, our great, I'm not sure what her position is these days. They change position like crazy.
Foreign affairs, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, she says, we're going to go into a new strategic partnership with China. I mean, this is in the wrong direction. Money that goes into China never comes back out. Ask Mark Carney. His Brookfield's got a ton of money in there, and they can't get it back out. So he has to make deals trying to get it out. They're in the claws of the great Chinese tiger. So I think we really need to take a look at what's going on here. We're going entirely in the wrong direction, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, and she went to China, and she's talking to the Indians and to Singapore, wants to build bridges. All well and good, but how close? How tidy do you want to be in with? How tight do you want to be in with the Chinese? I mean, these are people that have, infiltrated our democratic institutions. They are corrupting our public officials. We had a number of traitors, probably still do, in the House of Commons that are in China's pocket. They interfered with our elections. And these are the people that we're supposed to throw in with because we're mad at Donald Trump, because we haven't been able to sign a trade deal with Trump. I mean, it's very troubling. It's very disturbing. And yet, here we are. I mean, I kind of understand their level of desperation here as our economy continues to go downhill. I mean, we're certainly in a recession right now. And inflation continues to go up. And so that's bad because now we can't really lower rates very much because inflation is a problem and our economy is languishing, and it's been languishing for a long time. And what's the government's solution at its core? What do they think the solution is? Hiring more people to work with government? We got this massive deficit. God knows what it is, but it's going to be, somewhere between $70-80 billion. And how is Carney going to make this look better than it really deserves to? By playing accounting games, splitting operating expenses from capital expenses and say they're not the same thing. We'll balance our operating budget in 3 years. You know what? Stop playing these accounting games. The media hopefully is going to do its job. I have no faith that they will. But they need to ferret out the truth and find out that when these numbers are tabled, that they're not looking at and going to be regurgitating the government's mouthpiece over there, suggesting that somehow our deficit is less really than what it really is, Because, of course, when you're talking, whether you're talking about capital spending or operating spending, you're still talking about spending, Ross. You're still talking about money that's coming out of our pockets. And so they could try to make things look better than they deserve to look, but nobody should be buying it. What do you think?
Well, look, why doesn't Mark Carney put on his Team Canada jersey there and talk about how he's Team Canada when he and Freeland just gave $1 billion to China to build some ferry ships out in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And as I recall it, Freeland came out and said, I was blindsided by this. I didn't know. And then apparently a memo comes out later that says she knew all about it. They knew all about it, and Captain Canada shoved $1 billion off to China. Now, I don't know what Brookfield was doing with China at the time or if there's anything ties there. I mean, I know it's kind of bad to say that, but you kind of got to ask the question. And when he's doing this work with giving away money to big companies to give Canadians jobs, he's giving them to Volkswagen, a foreign company, Stellantis, a foreign company. He's giving them to the steel companies that are all foreign owned. They're not Canadian owned. So when he says, I'm going to invest in Canadians, he's giving money to foreign companies who would then give Canadians jobs that he can tax. But it certainly doesn't build the wealth of Canadians. What does build the wealth, Mark, is small business. Where are the loans to all the small businesses that are struggling right now that we all drive by every day and that we shop from and we do business with every day? They're getting killed by not having the money to be able to expand their businesses and do things and then employ people in the local community, right? Small business has always been proven in a capitalist society I don't care if it was done in the US of A, when Korea came out of nowhere to develop all of their great companies. It all came from giving money to small businesses and allowing them to hire people and then develop new logistics supply chains. It doesn't come with giving money to China or giving money over to Europe. That doesn't do anything for Canada. So this guy who's the banker, who he wants to stand in the House of Commons and say to Pierre Poilievre, I'm going to give you a lesson on economics. He's violating the laws of economics virtually every time he opens his mouth and makes a policy decision. That's just straight economics. That's not even opinion. It's straight economics, Mark. So I think this guy needs to get voted down. I mean, maybe I'm wishing too high and thinking too much of people who want to see the future for Canada, the future for the kids here, the future for ever owning a home. I hope there's a non-confidence vote and he loses on this budget. That's what I hope.
Yeah. And I'm not so sure that they wouldn't mind losing, because Carney wants a majority. A guy like that, an elitist, arrogant individual like that, doesn't want to go cap in hand to the NDP, bunch of 7-0 burgers in the House in order to try and pass his budget. That would run against his grain. This is a guy who thinks he knows it all, and that he has some kind of God-given right to run things. So the idea of having to kowtow to the NDP, I don't think that's going to wash with Mark Carnage. Anyway, we got a couple of minutes left. Oh, do you want to weigh in? Do you want to offer final thought?
Yeah, I just want to give one other little psychological insight to this Mark Carney. You notice whenever he goes anywhere on his great foreign trips, his great foreign escapades, he's almost entirely traveling by himself. He goes up the stairs, waves by himself. He does photos by himself. He doesn't drag along all of his other little cabinet friends for, hey, guys, guess what? It's going to be a week in South Asia. We're going to eat sushi and live in hot restaurants. He doesn't bring along all the other cabinet people for the little goodies like politicians normally do. So maybe a lot of the people who work in his cabinet are not too necessarily thrilled about Mark Carney either. He doesn't like to share, not with the Canadian people, and it looks like not even with his other cabinet and party members.
Yeah, that's a keen observation. And it's very much in keeping in terms of who this guy is as a central banker. This was the guy who called the shots at the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada, deciding when rates were going to go up and down. The buck always stopped with him. So the idea that he has to now kind of work with his caucus or work with the NDP or talk to the people in the Conservative Party and the Bloc, I don't think that sits well with him. So, which kind of lends into some of the rumors that we're hearing that the Liberals may try to engineer their own defeat just so that they can take another run at a majority. Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. How do people access your content online?
Yeah, to ask everybody to listen. Come catch me on my YouTube channel at McLean Chronicles. I'll be putting up some videos about this budget that are much more specific in Canada's future, and of course, always on crime, Mark.
Perfect.
So thanks very much for having me.